big-time geek to get all excited about this thing.
But one of those geeks, a visionary University of Illinois computer science student named Mark Andreessen, had a crazy idea. He imagined a future where everyone, including regular people like you and me, would use the web as part of our daily lives.
Andreessen worked in a cubicle near me, and he was working on a different product, and then he got all wild-eyed about this thing called a web.
The internet at that point was really only for nerds. It was really only for academics and researchers and scientists, and there wasn't anything that ordinary people could do on it. But it was so useful to the people who read it that I always figured everybody should be able to use it.
But he was like, yeah, man, this stuff is going to change the world. It'll be great. It's global hypermedia. And so I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Andreessen may have been the most excitable, but soon enough, he and a bunch of his college programming pals were working on making the web easier and more intuitive to use, adding images, pictures, audio, video capabilities.
The fruit of their labors was this: a dead simple piece of point-and-click software, the world's first web browser. And every time you surf the internet today, you're using one of its descendants.
In the fall of 1993, the Illinois geeks posted Mosaic online and made it a freely downloadable gift to humanity. And what a gift it turned out to be.
Well, we first posted the announcement on a newsgroup, on a Usenet newsgroup at that point, and I just said, does anybody want to be part of a beta effort? And I got back 12 responses, and so I sent the browser to 12 people. And then it just spread virally from there. So it spread from 12 to 100 to 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000 to a million.
This was the moment when the internet went from obscurity to ubiquity, from a toy for geeks and a tool for scientists to a bona fide mass medium. A bunch of 20-something, code-crunching, burger-guzzling kids had kickstarted a revolution. But before Mosaic could go truly global and imperil Bill Gates and Microsoft, it needed one more ingredient: a giant, heaping pile of cash.
This extremely expensive building was a gift.
A poor kid from West Texas, Clark was a high school dropout who turned himself into a computer science professor at Stanford, then founded a company called Silicon Graphics that made him a legend in the Valley. He had a taste for fast cars, expensive wine, and mid-air death-defying antics, like flying a stunt plane. The first time we met, in fact, he took me on a helicopter ride and nearly killed us both.
But having just left Silicon Graphics, Clark was looking for something new, something big. And when he saw Mosaic, he quickly became convinced that he'd found it.
I had spent a lot of years thinking about the convergence of different kinds of media with digital technology. And so it just sort of realized in my mind that the internet and the World Wide Web were going to be the thing that ushered in that convergence.
Wasting no time, Clark contacted Mark Andreessen, who had graduated from college at Illinois.
Saying, I'm thinking of starting a new software company. Do you want to get together? So I said, well, this is interesting. So I broke my normal rule of not getting up before noon and got up and had breakfast with him at 7 a.m.
In the months that followed, Mark and Clark became inseparable as they plotted how to turn Mosaic into the basis of a business venture.
But this obviously wasn't something that they could do by themselves. They needed a team, and so on a plane for Illinois on a recruiting trip that would spark the start of the internet age.
We had a plane and arrived late one evening and met everyone in a pizza parlor and sat there and had a beer and some pizza and just kind of talked about generally what we thought.
Well, I think we were all a little intimidated, to tell the truth, because he was this big Silicon Valley guy, relatively famous, and founded a very large company. Everyone knows he's got a lot of money, and he's coming out here. He listened.
I didn't have a concept of how we would make money at the time, but it's like so many other things. If there are that many people using something, and it had grown to 1 million users in a period of 9 months, there's going to be a way to make money out of it. But these guys had no clue.
What Clark cared about right now was getting the Illinois geeks on board, so he made them an offer beyond their wildest dreams.
Each of us comes back a little starry-eyed, a little dazed, and for me, just in junior year of university, I was just like, yeah, getting a full-time job offer before I've even graduated for that kind of money, it's like, oh, wow, yeah, man, why would I turn that down,
In hindsight, it might seem obvious that the web browser would change the world, but although Jim Clark may have grasped that insight, most people didn't, including the one person you would have expected to get it immediately: Bill Gates. Gates, of course, was the co-founder and CEO of Microsoft, the most important and fantastically profitable high-tech company of them all. Over the course of 2 decades, Microsoft had established a near monopoly over PC operating systems, and had used that monopoly to gain a vice-like grip
over the entire computer industry. The web was cyberspace as a wide open road, fast-moving and exhilarating, and it would take you absolutely anywhere that your curiosity. But Bill Gates thought that the information highway should be a toll road, on which Microsoft controlled all the toll booths, and we would all have to pay to drive. Thanks a lot. Gates' online system was called, surprise, surprise, the Microsoft Network. And in 1994, lots of smart people assumed that he would succeed in foisting the world, like he usually did. Here was the information superhighway that futurists had been predictors. And although Gates didn't realize it yet, his worst nightmare was about to come true. A gang of kids as young and ambitious as he himself had once been were about to threaten everything he stood for and everything that Microsoft had achieved. Brilliant, bespectacled, and obsessed with computers since his boyhood, Bill Gates' journey to becoming the most powerful figure in technology began in 1905 when, at the age of 19, he dropped out of Harvard to start Microsoft with his high school pal, Paul Allen. Gates' vision was simple and wildly ambitious. A PC on every desktop in every home and every office, and every one of those PCs running Microsoft software. By 1993, his dream was tantalizingly close to becoming reality. About 90% of the world's PCs were running Microsoft Windows. Gates and the army that he'd amassed on Microsoft's sprawling campus in suburban Seattle worked insanely hard, and they played very rough with their rivals. The company's rise had left a trail of corpses in its wake. There was Lotus, there was WordPerfect, there was Borland, there was Novell, even mighty IBM, all brought to their knees. Gates was now one of the richest and most influential men on earth, and he knew it. One night at a dinner party, he and some friends discussing the election of Bill Clinton as president, and Gates blurted out, "I have as much power as the president does." His wife kicked him under the table when she heard that. But the truth of it was, he might have been right. To many, Gates' power was seductive, irresistible. If you were a young, hungry software engineer like Thomas Reardon or Hadi Partovi, or a seasoned executive like Sam Jadala, Microsoft was the place to be. A place where it didn't matter if you were handsome or athletic. A place where smartness, measured by the ability to crank out killer code, was the only thing that counted. In other words, nerd nirvana.
In the early 90s, the Microsoft campus was a very dynamic culture. You'd have many of the smartest people in computer science at all different ages, but it was a surprisingly young company overall. The average age of the company was probably 26, 27.
Microsoft was not the biggest software company in the world, but in a weird way, it was the hottest, and it was clear. There was a vibe when you walked in the door, a kind of cockiness that perfused like every kind of job at Microsoft. It wasn't just the engineers.
I joined Microsoft in 1987, and this was a group of people who were very aggressive about the competition.
Microsoft's behavior was certainly extreme, but it was driven less by arrogance than by fear and insecurity. Gates knew that at any moment, some puny little startup in a garage somewhere could rise up and topple Microsoft, just as they'd done to others. And along with his trusted lieutenant, Steve Ballmer, he was determined not to let that happen. Unlike Gates, the college dropout, Ballmer had actually been to business school. Where Gates was Microsoft's superego, skinny and cerebral, Ballmer was its raging id, beefy and emotional. But it was nothing compared to Gates himself, the smartest of the Microsoft smart guys, a brainiac who never suffered fools gladly, if he even suffered them at all.
That's ridiculous. I'm not using this thing. No. Somebody's confused. Somebody's just not thinking. I mean, there's no way. You guys never understood. You never understood the first thing about this.
In all the times that I've met Gates, there's only been one consistent element. The moment when he looked at me and said that something I'd said was the stupidest thing he'd ever heard. And I didn't even work for the guy. But Thomas Reardon did. And he remembers his first meeting with Gates as one of the most unnerving experiences of his life.
He is not one known to throw out compliments. It was just sort of a, looks good. Yeah, we probably need to do more of this. And that was about the feedback that I felt like we got. And it wasn't that he was disinterested. I think I learned at the time really, you feel like you've had a major victory if you haven't been shredded. If he hasn't called you an idiot 19 times, guess what? You had a good Bill meeting.
With Microsoft's minions under his spell, billions of dollars in his bank account, and the launch of Windows 95 looming on the horizon, the Bill Gates of 1993 was on the verge of becoming the world's high-tech emperor.
Less than 2 years later, though, Gates would be forced to make one of the sharpest U-turns in corporate history, because Clark, Andreessen, and their team were about to enter the picture and throw a giant roadblock in their path.
Certain parts of the world have always been magnets of people. LA is for actors, Las Vegas is for gamblers, Paris is for artists. This 30-mile stretch between San Francisco and San